In this video, we're going to get into everything you need to know about specifically the Encinitas housing market, what's going on right now. We're going to get into some graphs and kind of get the stories behind the graphs, not just show them to you, but let you guys know exactly what's going on. That's where we're located. We're real estate agents right here in North County, San Diego. I'm Chris Erickson. We got Mr. Lawrence Sanders over there, coming to you live from the Encinitas office. So yeah, we're going to jump in, and a lot of things have changed. So if you guys are watching news or anything like that, you've probably seen, which we're going to bring up some of the charts of stuff going on nationally. Well, we're going to get super local and let you know exactly what's going on right here at 92024. And we're going to get into a bunch of other stuff too. So let's jump right in. Starting, we're going to get high level just so you kind of know what's going on with the market as a whole and work our way down to even the condos right here in Encinitas.
To Neptune Avenue. We're going
to
from
Neptune
the top
Ave.
to Neptune Oceanfront, which is
there we go.
Part of. Yeah. Let's talk interest rates first, Chris. Oh, we're going to talk inventory. Let's talk inventory.
Yeah, hop into this one right here. So this is brought to us by Altos. If you guys don't watch Mike Simonson on Altos Research, he goes through these great charts. We're going to settle it down for you so you don't have to watch him, but he's great. He's got a ton of good info, and it's kind of leading active inventory right now in the market. It gives you an idea of what's going on kind of nationally, and they project what's going on in the future. So Laura, what do we got going on here?
This is the most recent one, and I clipped it from one of their videos, so you can see Mike's finger in there pointing up. But if you look at we're at the, you can see we're maybe March, April, inventory started moving upwards. That dark maroon line that goes into the dotted line is the future, but it deviated from the year before, which is the lighter line, 2021, where inventory just went up a little during April, May, and then normal seasonality October, and then went right back down. It looks like we're going to follow that, but we just spiked a little higher during May, June, and July, where inventory went up. But it looks like we're going to have the same ride, peak somewhere in October. September, October, and then head back down by the end of the year. This is nationally 535,000 homes listed. So there's going to be more than last year, for sure, nationally, but nowhere near if you look up at 2018, which is the blue-gray line up at the top, and then 2016 is the very top light line. Inventory levels were a lot different back in those years. So we're still one of the lower years and that's, as far as inventory.
And like Lauren said, that's national, but the story here in Encinitas is a little bit different. We still haven't crossed over the 2021 inventory levels. We're actually much lower, which we'll get into a little bit coming in later in this video. But you can see just when you're looking national data, reading all those national articles, kind of dial in, find somebody local that you dig, maybe us, maybe it's not, but find somebody who knows what's going on in your specific market. It is us. Okay. The Beach Life Group, hit us up. But let's get into the next one, kind of show you partially why.
Mortgage rates.
So the mortgage rates have been fluctuating like wild. I mean, it's been crazy over the past 3-4 months. Historically, well, you can see everybody got used to the kind of sub-4 rates. They creeped up a few times before that. But in the last few months, we have seen these go up insane. They definitely got over or just touched 6% at some point, and then Fed raises the interest rates or the Fed's fund rate, and they come down to like 5%, which doesn't kind of make sense. But what's the story behind this? What are we seeing?
So look at that spike from January. It went 3 3/4 basically up to 6 1/4 almost is where it peaked maybe 6 weeks ago. The mortgage rates are based off of the 10-year bond, not off of what the Fed is doing. And the 10-year bonds led us into this, where they were rising well ahead of the Fed even starting to raise rates. The Federal Reserve, what they do to kind of adjust the economy and slow things up is they not only raise rates, but then they either don't replace the bonds that they bought, which they bought trillions of dollars of bonds, mortgage-backed securities over the past several years. And so they're the big player in the market. So either, that's the quantitative easing part of it, which is they're supposedly going to stop doing that, which means no more buying and maybe some selling at some point. but also that in tandem with raising rates. But so like the Fed, the last two times went up 3/4 of a point. The bond market rallied, which means the mortgage rate or the rate actually went down. So they were up to 3.5 or so right before the Fed raised rates, and they're now down to 2.75, 2.8, something like that. So that's a pretty significant drop, and that's why mortgage rates have dropped about a point from the peak. Very short peak, though. You know, I mean, if you look at that graph, is like vertical, and then it comes back down, kind of in a vertical. It's probably going to bounce up again.
Yeah, it did. Even there's one more data point. This is a weekly chart. There's one more data point on top of that one where it's now at 5.25%. So it has bumped up a little tiny bit, but you can see kind of starting January 2020, and into kind of right before it peaked, you can see how low rates got into. We locked in our refi during that time, and we're at like 2.75, which is an insanely low rate. So compared to that, where it is now, it's double. And a lot of people are used to that super low rate. And so just seeing it go above 4, above 5, above 6 may potentially have spooked, even priced out some sellers or some buyers rather in this market. So if you're thinking about selling in Encinitas, have we peaked? Let's get into it. So let's jump into this is big words, lender mediated properties, but it's basically foreclosures and short sales throughout. So
it's like 10 years back too. So
so it starts in 2012, and you can see if you're waiting for that spike in foreclosures. I mean, obviously the last 2 years there's been a moratorium on them, so it's kind of, you haven't seen any. So any data you see year over year, if there's like, you know, a decent chunk more than there have been last year. Basically last few years, there's been none. So any of those numbers are kind of skewed. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about that.
The two biggest things with that too, Chris, don't you think, is not only they had the moratorium, but then prices in at least on the coast where we're at, probably up over the past 2 years, 50+%, depending on where you're at. So that makes there aren't foreclosures because, you know, even if you got a 90% loan back then and you're up 30, 40, 50%, you're still, you know, there's a big cushion there. So,
So let's jump into 92024. What's happening in Encinitas? A lot of numbers going on up here. Obviously, you could check all these out, but one of the important numbers that we've seen over the last few months, and we'll show you the chart later. Actually, one of the next charts, kind of how it's trended and what's going on over the past few years. But that one highlighted right there, 99%. What is that? Actually, what is that number? It's the percent of list price that homes are getting. So our home selling 100% would be right at list price. You could see last year or last month, it was 102%, meaning we're still getting, it's kind of a lagging indicator because homes that closed last month actually went into escrow a few months prior when interest rates were a little bit lower. So it just kind of, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But 1 year ago it was 104%. We were in a crazy hot market. You can see it has trended down here quite a bit since the last month or two.
And individually, we saw a number of homes go for 110, 120 sometimes percent. Down at Carmel Valley was up over on average like 111 or 12% earlier in the year, which is crazy. But most of those are all settled. That's still a great number. If you look historically, the past 10 years, that bounced between 95, 96% listed sale price up to 98. We've never our market that I'm aware of in 32 years, of course, we sold some individual homes over asking, but we've never had a trend where we stayed up at 100, 300, 400, 5% listed sale price for an extended period of time. That's all COVID, the effects of COVID, interest rates, low inventory, all of those things kind of fueled the fire, went together to make this crazy spike in prices.
Definitely. I mean, right now, so we talked about, have we seen a peak? As with any time you're trying to sell your house, pricing is super important right now. That wish pricing, that pricing that you could have priced it maybe even probably 4 months ago, 3-4 months ago, when the market was crazy, going nuts, multiple offers on every single property. We're definitely not seeing that on, I mean, some properties are still getting some good activity going pending that first week, but it is not, it's as with anything, you do not want to overprice your home right now. Just, it's going to sit. the amount of buyers out there, the amount of people trying to get into properties has diminished quite a bit. So the demand has gone down a lot. As you can see with that 99% kind of going down and jumping into this, just you can see those spikes on that line there. I'm going to go red line. Is that a red line, Lauren? I'm colorblind.
Yes.
So
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
the red line is the percent over list. So how aggressively prices were going above what people were asking. And that is just a factor of multiple people writing on the same property. So in the last few months, if you were a seller, you put your home on the market, it'd go on through the weekend, and you would likely be reviewing offers, multiple offers on Monday, maybe Tuesday, pushing that price up. So people were going above and beyond. Buyers were going above and beyond to secure a property.
Yeah, because there weren't any properties.
Yeah.
Which we'll go into in some of the next slides. We'll talk about where the inventory levels are, which is different. We in general, I don't know. I've been through a couple adjustments in home prices on the coast here, and the coast is always a little more insulated than the rest of not only San Diego County, than the inland areas are much different than here, but also different than much of the country where, we've just got different things going on here, and it's different buyers. I think we're seeing even a price adjustment versus where we compared to other parts of the country over this past year or two too. That's one of the factors that's come into play with people moving here from the Bay Area, from Seattle, from higher end markets, LA. Most of our people come from LA. Actually, if you're looking for buyers in San Diego, the biggest majority of them are people moving from LA. That's where my family moved from years ago. When I was a little kid, we came from up there. So,
and the other lines you can see on this chart are trending up as well. That's just the days on market, meaning how long a property is active before it goes pending. And you can see it's creeping up. It's going up.
Still low though. I mean, look at that. We're at
still
16 days, which is crazy.
Which is a lifetime for anybody who sold their house like 2-3 months ago. That was, 5-6 days. So, and then this one's just showing kind of the homes sold at or above list. This is specifically for Encinitas. So the exact amount of homes that have sold, or the percentage of homes that have sold over list. So you can see back in May, it was like 80+%. June is trending down right now. We're sitting at August 12th right now, and it's at 27% of homes have sold at or above list. So that number's going down pretty darn quick.
Yep.
And a lot of people are talking or reading or hearing about any of these YouTube channels, market crash. There's one that I listen to that's really good. Michael Zuber, if you want to go check out his stuff, he does investment guy. Anyways, he always talks about there is a coming crash, but not necessarily in housing prices, but definitely in the number of transactions. So what that means is we're going to see less and less transactions, and you can kind of see it just year over year right here in the closed sales, the ones highlighted. July 2021, there were 45 closed in July. Last July, there was only 19, so down nearly 60% from last year. With that, less properties hitting the market, but also on the flip side, less buyer demand. So it's all kind of going together, kind of cooling off the market, getting more.
Look at the prices, though.
A little more normalized. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the prices, though.
Yep.
If we took this graph out where we showed year to date this year versus year to date last year at the same time, that number is like 30% less listings, new listings, and then 38% pending, down 38% in pending, and then closed sales are off 33.8%. So there isn't, part of what's gone on too that we should talk about is maybe from April, May, June, almost into July. I think some people front run, they were thinking of selling later in the year, and they thought, well, prices are dropping. Let's get our house on the market. Let's move this thing forward. And so we did see a spike of in some of those, after April, where there was more inventory, and month over month, it was much higher than it had been. and even year over year, but that's faded now to where we're still, if we just look year to date, for single family homes, we are off 33%, or 30%. So, there's
which
30%
goes against
less
that
this year. Yeah.
Yeah, which goes against that very first chart we showed that inventory is up year over year, not necessarily for 92024.
Yep, it's not for sure. And then the condos, it's kind of the same. It's a little more muted where new listings are off 7%, but in July, off 35%. So it's pretty. We're seeing a pretty strong indicator of that inventory's topped out maybe for this year, and we may start drifting down in inventory. So part of the story is if you're a home buyer, you're thinking, I'm going to wait until there's more inventory. If you're looking at Encinitas, that might not play out. Nobody knows what it's going to be at the end of the year. We know every week we're watching the numbers, and we kind of watch it creep up or creep down or jump up or jump down, whatever it's doing. Mm-hmm. But it's counterintuitive. I know most people I'm talking to think there's way more listings and there's way, so I think it felt like that because there were more listings on the market when this thing started turning in April, May, June. So there was this spike of new listings and then less buyers all of a sudden too. So it felt the gap got bigger, but now that's shrinking back probably to, if we end the year with less listings this year than last year, that'll be interesting to see what that does to the market. That bodes well for not having a crash, maybe a soft landing in real estate prices in our parts of San Diego. So we'll see. We're watching it, but it's definitely looking more like that.
And part of the story too, with the number of homes on the market, well, they're not coming off the market as quickly as before. So it's kind of building the number of homes on the market. So if you are, even if you're not in the market to buy or sell, like a lot of people are cruising around Zillow, Compass, Redfin, whatever your app might be, just checking out homes. They want to know what's going on in their neighborhood. And so they're seeing more, what looks like, if you're looking at the map view, what looks like more homes as a whole. And that's true because the homes are not going, off in that first weekend. And so this one pops up this week. It's actually on the next week as well, while another one pops up. So now you have 2 up there, then you have 3. And so visually it does look like there are more homes. Inventory is somewhat building, but we'll see as that slows down.
It's muted.
The one thing we did, a wash.
The one thing we did see a little bit of too, or started to see more of than we have in the past, is some cancellations. So that happened too, where things went into escrow and canceled. Yeah. Which makes that inventory level kind of stay a little bit high. So it's going to be interesting to see in the end how this plays out because, prices, I think when we looked at some of the data at the beginning of the year with one of our groups, I think Goldman Sachs said prices were going to be up 20% and then NAR was around 5%. And we were up 20% in our part of San Diego in the first 4 months of the year. We were up 20, so, but that's drifting.
Nobody has a crystal ball, so nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's adjusting their numbers and their targets and what's going on. And you as a home seller, most people are not going to watch these numbers as closely as we do. And, that's why you got to lean on, or you can lean on us or whoever, just to kind of get you informed. But most people are moving because life events, either school or relocation or jobs or that kind of stuff. So it's kind of hard, these are a lot of numbers, but at least you're going to know what's going on and kind of, when the best time maybe to start getting ready to put that home on the market.
What we wanted to go over right now is pull up what's live on the market right now in Encinitas. And if you pull up all the homes listed, and these are detached and attached, correct, Chris?
Yep. So we got condos, townhomes. Yeah. So you got the condos mostly in the center section. That's kind of we just ran under a mill. That's all you're going to find in here. You got a few in Village Park. You got a few right down by the freeway. Pacific Pines, I think there was one that popped up, just went pending. So
we're in the 88 to 90 range for active listings of both detached, attached, and there's probably about 13 or 14 of those are $1 million and below, and the rest of the market's above that in Encinitas. if we talk about one of the biggest changes over the past 2 years, that's it. We used to be able to find actual detached homes under $1 million, and there really are none of those anymore. Maybe a random one shows up at $999. But for the most part, if you're looking for a detached home, you're above $1 million in Encinitas, and so the marketplace right now, there's about 88 to 90. If we run the computer right now, it can change because people are adding things, but 88 to 90 active. There's about 32 to 33 pending right now. And then there's this past month, there's been about 38 closed so far the past 30 days. So there's, we're running it kind of at an even level where if you look at actives and then add pending and closed, it's a pretty even marketplace where I guess the best way to explain that is we get new listings, and earlier in this year, we would have 5 new listings and 10 sales, right? You'd look daily, there'd be 5 new listings and Encinitas, 10 go into escrow and close. Now we're seeing it's more evened out to where there's some new listings and some new pendings. And so the market is moderating, which is good for everybody. There's more things to choose from if you're a buyer, but there's still not a vast amount of inventory. And the one thing, I'm curious what you think about this, Chris. The interesting thing is, if you look at the inventory levels, and then we always look at it as ones that are at a saleable price, there's still low inventory because there's a number of homes that are overpriced. So I don't even consider that inventory in some realms because there's some that are significantly, I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. So one of these listings, I went in and it was at least 300,000 overpriced, which is significant. Yeah. So they've now dropped it by 250 and it's still on the market. Yeah. So that's when I say there's inventory has come up. It's still the great inventory. If you're a buyer and you're looking to find a house that's a good price based on what's going on now, it's still in the lower level. And so keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind that's good right now, if you're actually thinking of buying, is interest rates have moderated, like we mentioned earlier, which is a good thing. And there's also some good programs, 10-1 ARMs, 7-year ARMs, or some different programs you can get into that might make sense too, if it fits in your budget and fits with your timing and all that stuff. Obviously, don't jump into an ARM just to jump into one, unless it matches with what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. For sellers in Encinitas, the big story is don't overprice it. I know this is real estate agents are telling you, oh, your house isn't worth it, blah, 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 because you guys just want to sell it, but the truth of the matter is buyers are going to let you know what your house is worth. And we're out there every day working with buyers. And like Lauren said, the house is overpriced. Who's telling those sellers that the house is overpriced? The market is telling them that house is overpriced by the fact that it's sitting. And we are seeing a lot more sitting recently just because the buyer pool has shrunk significantly. That's why we're seeing more. When we used to run these maps, maybe 3 months ago, you would see maybe like half this many homes actually pop up. So now that we're seeing a few more pop up, that were active. Yeah, hey, everything was pending at the point. Yeah,
do this with the map. And it would have looked a lot different. Add pending to this mix and see what that shows us, because that'll give you some context of where we're at with those.
So we just brought up another, it was about 80 something now, about 20 more pending. So you can see if I take out the actives, there's all the pendings, where a few months ago, this was reversed. So sellers, if you're sitting down and thinking like you missed the top, you missed that feeding frenzy, I'm under the assumption right now you have, doesn't mean now's a bad time to sell, because if you're still houses that are dialed in, which is super important, preparation, priced well, like priced instead of beyond the last one that sold, maybe right at it, maybe a little below, just kind of depends on the condition, the location, all that kind of stuff of your house. And then the promotion, still putting it out there to everywhere, kind of continuing to, market it properly to the right people. So those 3 things are always huge, and even more important right now that we have been seeing that buyer pool, and it's not just like crazy frothy market that we have seen over the past little bit. So bring back up those actives. Yeah.
The interesting, I'm watching this one house that I had some clients interested in. It's not in Encinitas, but so interesting thing with it, and we'll see how it plays out. But it was listed at 1,350. The last sale in the neighborhood was 1,313. So they came on the market and they're thinking 2 months ago, hey, we're going to front load the market a little bit. And so it sat. And so in this market too, something to think about, if you're on the market for 15 to 20 days, you would definitely look at an adjustment, preferably in 2 weeks versus 21 days. But because of the average market time's trending around, for overall Encinitas is about 24 days, but that depends on the price bracket. But so the person, all of a sudden we see it dive down to they put it at 999. They're like, whoa, what's going on? Yeah. Well, within a day, that generated like 6 or 7 offers, which means there was buyers out there. And then when it was perceived to be a great deal, they went in, and then it went back well over that price. So I'm saying all that to say, if you're priced correctly, you're still in a market where you're going to get 2 or 3 offers, which will help you keep your price. Now that's different than it was earlier in the year, where if you were priced right at where you should be, you might get 8 to 10 offers, sometimes 15, 20 we saw in March and April, or more like February and March. April started changing, but so price is a key factor, and it's a part of the marketing. It's not the final say on your home price, where it's going to end up. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. But there's interesting things going on. Let's go through the market action in Encinitas with this one's for single family homes, and you can see it's cooling. If you look at the dark gray, last month was up a little bit over 60, and now it's just over 50. So it's cooling off a little bit.
And I know you were saying right before we hopped on that you track this pretty closely, and just a few months ago it was like in the 90s.
Yeah, it was up 80 something to 90. I mean, it got up there. So it got as high as I've ever seen it. I remember when I started using Altos years ago, we were in a much different market, and it was hard to look at because we were down in the 20, 25 range. They were in the buyer market solidly for a number of years especially after 2008. But if you look at this, we're still solidly in a seller's market, which means if you price your home appropriately, if you're a detached home, you price your home appropriately, maybe even you can dial it back just a little bit. You're probably going to increase your activity quite a bit, and get the price, get a good price for the home still. What's the condos? So they're a little more solid. You see they're up over 60 still. Less inventory of townhomes and condos in Encinitas by and large anyway.
You only have a few little areas, and even in that Village Park area, you see in past years, you see 3, 4, 5 condos, townhomes on at a time. Now we're seeing like 2 to 3. 2 or 3 might more come on, then those ones go pending, and it's just kind of been a slow trickle of homes coming on. Super important. At the top, we were seeing a few condos go for like 1.1, 1.2, which they were dialed in. They were, remodeled. They were, really good shape, good locations, obviously. But now we're seeing those same kind of floor plan and models in the maybe 950 range, and those ones have been sitting. We just saw a recent price reduction on one, and it's been sitting for a few weeks. Just went under, I believe, 900,000. So you can see the swing. I mean, obviously, condition has a lot to do with that, but the swing has been very, very visible. So
well, think about it too. Interest rates went significantly up. The people that are most affected by that are the starting ranges of any market, or the people that are in those starting range homes, because that's a big, it's a big difference in your monthly payment. So some people just got. The reason we're seeing the number of buyers down too is just straight up people got knocked out of the market. Those people that could have bought that $1.1 million condo at the end of last year very quickly found out that they they couldn't even buy they couldn't buy what they wanted. So they just left the market. The one, and then so a lot more people rented. Rents have gone crazy too. So it's an interesting market.
Final words for sellers. Anybody pondering selling right now? Lauren, what are you going to tell? What are you consulting with clients right now? Anybody interested? I know you have a few listings coming up in Encinitas. What's the attitude? What kind of are we counseling them at?
Well, it depends on the price bracket you're in to start off with. I noticed, I'll give you one interesting stat that I noticed from San Diego as a whole. The strongest part of the market was 5 million and above. So those folks with money are still buying. And but for Encinitas in particular, price is the key in condition, and then making a home easy to get into for people to see. And then the other thing is the prices are still solid. Like everybody, it's funny. I was getting ready to put a house on the market, getting a bid for some carpet and stuff like that. And the guy who gives the carpet bid, he's been in the business forever and known him. And I was talking to him about somebody that bought a house, and he goes, we're out by there. And I said, how long ago did you buy? 25 years ago. He goes, and I thought I overpaid then. So that's where buyers are. And they've always felt that way. I'm sure you felt that way when you bought your home in Encinitas, like I'm paying too much. And when the market shifts like it is, buyers even get more afraid of that. Like when it's good times, you feel like you're overpaying, but you're like, so the psychology of this is the biggest part of it. And so, you want to make your home an easy one to pick based on what else is out there. So it's really pricing as you come to the market. What's your competition and what's most recently closed that we can go, hey, point to that one. That's where the value is. And so you want to be near those things. So that's things to keep in mind. If you're a buyer in Encinitas, it's always a good time to buy in Encinitas. If you look back 10 years, you're like, hey man, I wish I bought then, or I'm glad I bought then. How long ago did you buy your house, Chris?
We bought 10 years ago.
And are you glad you bought it?
Really bummed. Yeah, it's done well over that time.
Yeah, most people made more in their equity in San Diego County than they did in their income, an equity gain versus what they made at their job.
Yeah.
So think about that this past year. That's kind of crazy to think about too. So long term, if you're a buyer that's buying for the long, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, I would carry on and find the house you want and buy it and feel comfortable doing that based on what's going on. I don't think we're going to see any big crashes that everything we look at isn't pointing to that. Now, there could be some catastrophic thing happen in the nation that would change that. But so far, we're looking for I think we're going to get more of a soft landing. So, we'll see though. It's the one thing I know for sure is we're going to watch this stuff. So if you have questions about, because every neighborhood's different too. I mean, if you've got a house on Neptune, it's different than being in Village Park. There's different things going on. So just call and talk. We're happy to talk through it, right, Chris? Go through what the numbers are, go through what it's telling us, and then it's really based on what you're trying to do as to what you end up, what you do, whether you sell, buy. It's got to make sense for you in the end, not based on the market. That's what I was. Yeah. That's a long way to get to. Don't base it on the market, what's going on, because it's fine. Base it on what you're trying to do in your life, and if it fits in with what you're trying to do there.
Cool. Yeah. If you guys are thinking of making the move, selling your house in Encinitas or any of the surrounding cities, we got your back. All the info is right below. We're going to be doing more of these videos, so be sure to subscribe. If you want to know what's going on, if you want to figure out your specific neighborhood, drop us a comment, because we work in all these North County neighborhoods. Today was specifically Encinitas. Like, all the numbers we run are different for specific neighborhoods, for specific zip codes. So it changes. We're going to keep you updated on all of them. Like I said, if you want yours, just drop a comment below. We'll catch you guys all on the next one.